Good afternoon, and yes, interesting to see those statistics. So I'm here to talk about the connection between the trends and what we do with them, which actually connects very well with what we just saw. Because I agree with what you said in the statement here. Trends do not impact business necessarily directly, but trends make us come up with new ideas. And new ideas in themselves are not going to change anything, so ideas need to be turned into innovations. So my part of the day is to talk of the perspective of trends when it comes to innovations, how trends help us innovate. But before I do that, I want to ask you some questions too, but I'm not going to do this fancy app thing. I'm just going to ask you to raise your hands. Okay? I'm going to ask you 3 questions, because I want to see your relationship, your connection to innovation and creativity. So I'm going to ask you 3 questions. Raise your hand if you agree with the statement. Question number 1. How many of you think that being creative is important in your job? Raise your hand. Good. Second question. How many of you think that you actually are creative? Okay. Welcome to Thailand. Third question. How many of you think that your company, your employer, is doing enough to develop your creativity? Yep, pretty much. Okay, so I go around the world and I give talks on creativity and change, and I always ask these 3 questions. And I've done it in now more than 60 different countries. So I thought it would make sense to first look at where is Thailand compared to other countries and other cultures, because Thailand is slightly different, or Southeast Asia actually is slightly different. First question, is creativity important in your job? Yes. Everyone says yes. It doesn't matter which country you go to, it doesn't matter which industry you go to, it doesn't matter which level of management you talk to, everyone will always, or almost everyone, will always say yes, including you, which is good. So you all think creativity is important. Everywhere we do, but then we come to the second question, and then it doesn't look so good anymore. Second question, do you think you are creative? In this room, it was about 30, less than 30%. The global average is 45%, which means Thailand is worse than normal. I am from Sweden. In Europe, it tends to be slightly higher. In Europe, it's more like 60, 70%, even up to 80% in some European countries. We go to America, what happens? High or low? America, high or low? What do you think, high or low? High. America, 95%. What do you think about India and China? What about China, high or low? High, yes. China is high. How about India? Super high. 95%. India is the Americans of Asia, okay? Because big countries have big egos. So people who come from like Russia, Brazil, China, India, America, they all think they're super at everything they do. So they also tend to believe that they're very creative. But Southeast Asia is the opposite. It's quite low. Thailand is not the worst. I live in Singapore. Singapore is even worse. Singapore is 20%. It's the second worst country in the world. I was in Singapore recently. I said, you're the second worst country in the world. And the Singaporean said, yes, we're number 2. Singapore is obsessed with being number 1. But Thailand and Singapore are not the worst countries. There's one country that is even worse. Which country do you think it is? It's an Asian country. Which country has the lowest level of creative confidence? Take a guess. Anyone? Just scream it out. Which country? Huh? Myanmar. No. I've asked this question in Myanmar. It's higher than Thailand. It's not very high, but it's higher than Thailand. That must make you very annoyed. Okay, what else? No, it's not Myanmar. Guess. Country with the lowest level of creative confidence. Japan, good guess. Japan is like Singapore, about 20%. And one country even worse. Korea, South Korea. last time I was in South Korea. 300 people in the audience. Is creativity important in your job? Yes. 300 Koreans said yes. Second question, do you think you are creative? No. Not a single one, zero. I said, come on, someone, anyone? One man raised his hand and said no. He just wanted to make a clarification. He said no, not compared to Leonardo da Vinci. See? That's the Asian way of thinking, a humble way of thinking. Are you creative? No. Not compared to the most creative person who has ever lived. What's the American way of thinking? Are you creative? Hell yeah, compared to my brother. The fact that Thailand scores very low, one of the lowest actually in the world, not the lowest, but one of the lowest, is not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. Because if you think about it, you actually, okay, it's not only a good thing, but it could be a good thing. And my goal today with my speech is that you should look at Thai creativity in a different way, and that you should have more confidence when it comes to Thai creativity than you have. Because Thailand, if you ask me, is an extremely creative country. And I have been living in Asia for more than 10 years. I am from Europe. I write books on creativity. I decided to leave Europe and move to Asia because I think Asia is the best place in the world to live right now if you want to be a creative person. But you have to understand why. So here's the connection between confidence and creativity. To be creative, yes, you have to be confident. Think about it. Creativity, very simple definition, goes like this. Everyone is walking in this direction. You say, screw those people, I'm going to walk in this direction. That is a very, very easy definition of creativity. So to do that, you need to be confident. But truly creative people, they don't do that. Truly creative people, they behave like this. Everyone is walking in this direction. Screw them, I'm going to walk in this direction. Maybe not. Maybe this direction. Maybe not. Maybe that direction. You see, to be confident, to be creative, you need to be always asking yourself, is there a better way? I might be wrong. And therefore, too much confidence actually kills creativity. And Americans, if you ask me, have way too much confidence, and it kills their creativity. They're not as creative as they think they are, and you are more creative than you think you are. Third question. Is your company doing enough to develop your creativity? No. Two people say yes. HR manager and person sitting next to HR manager. So that's why I do what I do. I go around the world and I try to get people to be more creative because everyone says creativity is important. Most people say it's very important, but I don't know how to do it. And no one says we're doing enough to make people creative. But what if we did? So that's what I will talk about. I will talk about why it's so important, and I will talk about it from the perspective of change, because that's the connection to trends. Trends is a change. Change is a trend. Okay, so let's start with a definition. What is a definition of an idea? My favorite definition of an idea goes like this. An idea is that one person takes two formerly known things and combines them in a new way. One person takes two formerly known things and combines them in a new way. And that is the connection to a trend. The purpose of looking at all these trends that you will see today is that not that you're going to do those things, but that those things that you see might be something that you can connect to what you do and thereby have an idea. Every idea is a combination of previously known things. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples. The first example is from a friend of mine. His name is Alexander Lervik. He's a designer, and he designs lamps. So here we go. Alexander took the concept of a lamp, which is a previously known thing, and he took the concept of a swing, which is a previously known thing. Now we take a lamp and a swing, we combine the two, what do we get? Lamp and a swing combined, what do we get? Swinging lamp, yes? See, you are creative, I told you. 95% will say swinging lamp. 5% will say lamping swing. And lamping swing is more creative than swinging lamp. Because it's a combination of two things that most people did not see. I don't know if what he did is a lamping swing or a swinging lamp, but I do know that I love it. I think it's very, very creative. He took a lamp and a swing combined, and he did this. Beautiful, creative, wonderful. But technically, it's just a combination of two previously known things. Had he never seen a swing, had he never seen a lamp, he could never do this. All creativity comes from being inspired from what other people have already done. Here's another one. Alexander took the concept of a lamp, which is a previously known thing, and he took the concept of a do not disturb sign, which is a previously known thing. Now you take a lamp and a do not disturb sign, you combine the two, what do you get? A do not disturb lamp. It looks like this. Maybe not super creative, but a little bit better than this. This is my friend, Alexander. Now I'm going to make it more fun. We take the concept of Alexander and we combine him with a lamp. Now you're either thinking of a lamp in the shape of Alexander, or you're thinking of Alexander in the shape of a lamp. This is what he did. Alexander went to a hospital and he said to the doctor, I think there's something wrong with my brain. The doctor said, oh, we have to make a brain scan. So they scanned his brain. Then Alexander said, hey, can I have the file on a memory stick? So he took the file on a USB stick, he went to a 3D printer, he printed it out, he put a light inside. Alexander plus lamp equals a lamp in the shape of Alexander. Here it is. Now, this is an exact replica of his brain. Is this a creative idea, yes or no? Yes? No? Usually, it's about 50-50. And I don't think it's creative, actually. I just think it's strange. Because you see, creativity is not only to take two things and combine them. You have to take two things and combine them and make something that is better than what we have today. There has to be an element of improvement, and I'm not so sure this makes the world better. But that's not the point. The point is that even this weird-looking lamp is just a combination of two previously known things, and every idea is. That means that the definition of an idea looks like this. An idea equals that a person takes knowledge and information and combines it in a new way. One person takes knowledge and information and combines it in a new way. The plus means to combine. And the difference between knowledge and information is knowledge is all the things that we already know. And information, that's the trends. Information is all those new things that we did not know, but that someone tells us. And now we can take this new information, we can combine it with the old knowledge, and we can have ideas. The trick, of course, is how the plus, our ability to combine what we know and what we learn, the plus is what makes us creative. Sorry. So I'm now going to go show you my favorite example of how one person took two previously known things and combined them in a new way. This is a man in Lithuania, one person with an idea. He took the concept of a sink, which is a previously known thing, and he took the concept of a urinal, which is a previously known thing. Now we take a sink and a urinal, we combine the two, and what do we get? Sink and urinal combined, what do we get? Not so easy, right? I was in the US recently. I said, you take a sink, you take a urinal, you combine the two, what do you get? And the guy said, what, shower? I said, no, now, that was too much information. You don't get a shower, you get this. The women are still confused. Okay, this is how it works. First you pee, then you wash your hands. The water used to wash your hand is now reused to flush your pee away. Is this a good idea, yes or no? Why? Remember, it has to make the world better. Why is this better? Saves water, which in many, many Asian countries is a big, Asian cities is a big problem. So we're saving water. But not only that, it's good for a second reason. What is the second reason? Because? Huh? Space. If we save space, we save rent. If we save rent, we save money. So we are now saving the environment and we're saving money. This is awesome. This is good for a third reason. Time. Who said time? How does it save time? How? Okay, very good. He said, you now can do, now you're in the same place. You don't have to walk over to the sink. But here's, you know why I asked why? Because I know you were going to say this because you're a man, right? But when a woman says it saves time, and I ask them why, do you know what they say? This is true. Do you know what women say? They say, now you can do two things at once. They have no clue how we pee. I'm not showing you this idea because I think this is the best idea in the history of mankind. I'm showing you this idea because a urinal is a very, very simple little innovation. It's a bucket with a hole in it, you pee in it, that's it. For 2,000 years, it looked almost exactly the same. And then one person in Estonia had the ability to look at this with new information and say, well, maybe we can take this and combine it. And after 2,000 years, we made it better in 3 different ways. Now, what you do is 1,000,000 times more advanced than a urinal, which means there are infinite ways that you can make what you do better. And that's the power of creativity. So now I'm going to talk about why. Why is this so important right now? I have been speaking and writing about creativity for more than 20 years. I started in 1994, so for 22 years. Before the dot-com bubble, during the dot-com bubble, after the dot-com bubble, during the financial crisis, it has never been more fun than now. The difference now, compared to all the other times before, is now the change is actually happening. We're not talking about something that might change in the future. We're talking about changes that happens right now. I've never seen or heard management of companies have more of a sense of urgency in their voice than right now. I don't know if you watch Game of Thrones, but it's not winter is coming, it's winter is here, okay? We have to change now. And idea perception is a specific creative skill. It is your ability to see how the world is changing in 4 different phases. Number 1, see that the world has now changed. In whatever way. Someone has invented the internet, someone has invented the mobile phone, someone has done Pokemon Go, or whatever it is. Someone has done something. And this is why it's so important to pick up trends. If you are going to be able to understand what you are going to do, how the world will change, first, if you don't even see it, you can't even do the rest. But trends is only the first part. When you have seen that something has happened, then you need to understand, okay, what does this mean? What can we now do? What does this mean? Then you have to embrace it, saying, well, if this is happening, then this is going to happen. And if this happens, we should do this. And then the 4th part of it is that you actually have to do what you decide to do. And all of these are difficult. And if you miss on one of these, you fail. And like I said, it's never been more important to do this than now. Because when the world isn't changing so fast, we don't have to change so fast. But when the world changes fast and we don't, that's when you're in trouble. An animal can look the same for millions of years because the environment doesn't change. For 80 million years, a crocodile has looked the same. But if an environment changes very quickly and the animal doesn't change with it, the animal goes extinct. And now the speed of change is just amazing. I'll show you some examples. I'm 50 years old, almost. When I was born, this was science fiction. Imagine if you can have a telephone in our watches with no cable. Huh? Literally Star Trek technology. Captain Kirk. We looked at them, we said, wow, that would be an amazing technology. Well, 50 years later, it's not Star Trek anymore. It is Apple. We can go to Apple Store and buy it. We have Star Trek technology for $500, and we are utterly underwhelmed. We're like, I don't think so. I don't like it. We are not impressed with Star Trek technology. If someone did beam me up, Scotty, we go, nah, I don't think so. I was in China recently. I showed this picture. A Chinese man, Chinese people are so skeptical. A Chinese man said, why so big? This is my favorite, 50 years ago. In the future, we don't have to clean our homes. In the future, robots will clean our homes. Wow, wouldn't that be amazing? That would be amazing. 50 years later, we have robots that clean our homes. And we are not impressed. I was in Sweden recently. I showed this picture, and I swear to you, a guy in the back raises his hand and says, excuse me, which one is the robot? And it turns out he's not making a joke. It turns out he was a robot expert. And he said, 10 years ago, this was a cool robot. 10 years ago, this would have impressed me. But today, if you go to a robot exhibition and you show her this, if you show this black thing, no one's going to care. But if you go to a robot exhibition and you show her, people might get interested. People might get interested. And the funny thing is that robots today do look like her. So in 10 years, we've gone from robots looking like this to robots looking like that, which means 10 years from now, we'll go from robots looking like this to robots looking like what? What could a drone do 10 years ago? What can a drone do today? What can a drone do 10 years from now? It's just mind-boggling. We can't even wrap our heads around what they are going to be able to do. That's how quickly change happens now. Problem is that we're not good at seeing change. So I'm going to give you one example now. I write books, which means I'm into publishing. So we, in the book industry, we just had a huge change happen to us the last 5 years or so. After 500 years of the book industry more or less looking the same, suddenly everything just changed. So I'm going to ask you a question. I want all of you to reply at the same time. I'm going to ask you, what is the change that we saw in the book industry? We went from books to, everyone, books to e-books. See? Everyone who replied said e-books. You went from books to e-books. But here's a lesson. Just because everyone thinks that they know what the change happening right now is, does not mean that is the change that is happening. A lot of times, people are utterly unaware of the changes that are actually happening. That's why it's so important to have idea perception, to understand what is the actual changes that are happening. Because we did not go from books to e-books. I'll help you out. When did people used to read books? In the 20th century, when people still would read books, when did people used to read books? Well, let's see. On the airplane, on the subway, on the bus, 15 minutes before going to bed and on vacation. When do people read books now? On vacation. What do they do on the airplane, on the subway, on the bus, and 15 minutes before going to bed, what do people do? They do not read books, and they do not read e-books. What do? What do you do? See? We did not go from book to e-book. We went from book to Facebook. But when I ask you, what is the big change that has happened, everyone says book to e-books. No, about 3% read e-books. 97% stopped reading books. But as an industry, we invested billions of dollars thinking that people were going to switch from books to e-books. But that's not what happened. Here's some pictures I've been taking recently in airports all over Asia. This is in Manila. This is 4 Japanese people. This is a gadget, and a gadget. No one is reading an e-book. They're playing games. We didn't go to books, to e-books. We went to YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Angry Birds, Candy Crush Saga, Pokemon Go, okay? We're not reading, we're playing games. There's actually one person here who's reading a book. But let's ask a very honest question. Why is he reading a book? Because battery is dead. That's exactly correct. This is in Kuala Lumpur, one family. They rather share one computer than, God forbid, read on paper. But my next picture is, I think, just perfect. It just perfectly summarizes what is happening right now that we need to understand. Some people think that the next picture is fake, that I somehow staged it because it's so perfect. It's not fake. I took it myself. She doesn't know I am taking it, but it's a devastating picture to show to the book industry. It symbolizes what's happening right now. And it's a depressing picture if you believe in books. Are you ready? This is a woman pretending to read a book. But she's not reading a book, she's watching a movie on her iPhone. And just like that, the book died. Change. And the thing is, when we invent all these new technologies and all these new innovations and all these new ideas, we are not able to understand how they are going to be used. Like, for example, the first web pages that we did literally looked like a book page because we thought they had to be static, like a book. They are still called web pages, but now we know that they can be dynamic and they can be video and multimedia and all of this. But it took 10 years to figure this out. And a lot of time when new technology comes in, we don't understand how we now can use it. We are still stuck in the old behavior, even though we have new technology. So I'll share one example with you. It happened to my brother. So now in airports, they have this new technology called, the check-in machine. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah? So you don't talk to a person anymore, you talk to a machine, which I like, it's okay. But this happened to my brother. My brother goes up to the machine and it says, enter your code. So my brother enters his code. Then he gets an error message. Wrong code. Please try again. Has that ever happened to you? Yeah? So my brother tries this time a little bit slower. Wrong code. Please try again. He tries for a third time. The third time, he doesn't get wrong code, please try again. He gets a different message. Now it says, wrong code, please contact service staff. Because they know he is so stupid, he's not going to solve it by himself. So my brother looks around, and look, there's a woman there from the airline. So he goes up to her and he says, excuse me, there's something wrong with my code. And the woman, without looking at the piece of paper, straight away looks at my brother and says, well, do you have a 1 or a 0 in your code? Yes, I have a 1. Try changing that to the letter L. My brother goes, of course. He goes there, he enters it, and it works. His first reaction was, God, I am stupid. His second reaction was, wait a minute. How did she know that? She did not look at my code. How did she know that? So he goes back to her. Excuse me, how did you know I had an L in my code without looking at my piece of paper? Let me guess. This happens a lot. She goes, oh yes, happens all the time. Then my brother says, then why don't you call your IT department? And you tell your IT department to take away all the L's and all the O's. Because there's 9 characters, they're numbers and letters. It's like 32 billion combinations. If you take away all the L's and all the O's, it's 26 billion combinations. It will last for 5,000 years. She smiles and says, No, 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 no. I love to help people. And that shows that what they have introduced is a new machine and a new technology, but they haven't introduced a new mindset. The mindset is still the mindset of humans helping humans, and that's where they screwed up. Okay. So now I talked a lot about how it is difficult. For the last 15 minutes or so, I'm going to talk about why I think you, in Thailand, maybe specifically in Thailand, actually, not only Thailand, but specifically Thailand, are better positioned to not get stuck in those mindsets, but to actually be creative and come up with new ways of doing things. Because we used to think that all these ideas should come from the West. The mindset is that the developed world is creative and the developing world is not creative. I totally disagree with this. I've been studying creativity specifically in developing countries for the last more than 10 years. I've been everywhere from South Africa to South Korea, and I've been doing interviews in Thailand a lot, because I find Thai people very creative. So I'm going to talk about the advantage of living in a developing country and why I have been living in Asia for now 10 years, and why I'm never moving back. And the reason is that I believe that if you live in a country that is defining itself as being developed, you are mentally telling yourself that you think that you are done. Developed means done. If you live in a developing country, you are telling yourself that you're not done, which is a much more fluid state of being, which is much better connected to being creative. Now, I don't have so much time, so I'm not going to talk about all the advantages, so I'm going to talk about three. Three advantages that you have over the people in developed countries. Here is advantage number one. You are better positioned to see the change. And yes, everyone has access to internet now, and everyone can learn about the trends all over the world, but who is better positioned to see how quickly the world is really changing? Someone who lives in Amsterdam or someone who lives in Bangkok? Someone who lives in Stockholm or someone who lives in Beijing? Well, I am from Stockholm. I was born in Stockholm, and I have lived almost all my life in Stockholm. And I used to live in Beijing. So we're going to compare two cities now. This is Stockholm and this is Beijing. Let's see which of these two cities have changed the most in the last 50 years. But I could have used Amsterdam and Bangkok too. It's the same idea. This is Beijing 50 years ago. This is Beijing today. An amazing transformation. Same with Bangkok. Not all good, but an amazing transformation. That means that someone who lives in a city like this is just more naturally attuned to quick changes. This is Stockholm 50 years ago. This is Stockholm today. Oh, I'm sorry. We have a new building. They're very proud of this new building. That means that people who live in developed countries just need to try harder just to even understand what happens in the world. Which brings us to the second advantage, and the second advantage is your strongest advantage. Because remember what I told you before. I said, what is the definition of an idea? Well, you take two previously known things and you combine them in a new way. So let's look at people from Asia. People in Asia have a knowledge advantage because you know about the Asian culture. You know about Buddhist culture, Thai culture, Southeast Asian culture, a little bit of Chinese culture. You know of all those Asian cultures. But you also know about the Western culture. Do you know the name of the President of America? Yes or no? Yeah, it's a stupid question. Do you know the name of the two people trying to become President of America? Yeah, of course you do. Do you know Tiger Woods? Yeah. Do you know Tiger Woods cheated on his Swedish wife? Yes. How the hell can you know this? This is like a minute detail from my culture, but you know it. Why? Because you do, which means you know about my culture and you also know about yours, which means you can take the best of your culture and the best of my culture, and you can now combine the two. And what you don't understand, especially, what you don't understand is that just because you can do this doesn't mean that the people in the West can do the same. They don't have this understanding. Your worldview looks like this. Their worldview looks like this. I was in America and Europe last week. I've asked 100,000 people in Europe and America this question. Say the name of a single political leader in Asia. Take a guess. How many % can do that? I said, do you know the name of the people trying to become president in the US? And you said yes. But if I asked them to say a single political leader in Asia, how many people can do that? Take a guess. How many %? It's a low number, but how low? How low? Anyone? 10%. See? This is your problem. You underestimate how dumb we are. You are ignorant about how ignorant we are. It's not 10%. It's not 5%. It's not 1%. It is 1/10 of 1%. 1 in 1,000 can do it. I was in the US recently. I said, how can you know Mao and how can you know Gandhi? How can you know the leaders of Asia 30 years ago, but now, when Asia is a hotspot of innovation and creativity, how can you know less about Asia 30 years later? How can you get the internet and become stupid? How is that possible? And the woman got so upset, and she said, the reason we don't know the names of the leaders now is because the names are so long and difficult. Okay, let's see. What's the name of the leader of China? Xi, 2 letters. 2 letters. 1 shorter than Mao. What's the leader of India? Modi, 4 letters, shorter than Gandhi, okay? But they have no clue. If I tell them, say the names of 10 people from developing countries that will change the world in any way in the next decade, politicians, entrepreneurs, inventors, trendsetters, anything, just say 10 people. Do you know what they say? They say Nelson Mandela and Gandhi. I say, no, they have to be alive. When I moved to Singapore in 2008, Chinese movie started to show. Red Cliff, which means a Singaporean on Friday night watches an Asian movie and on Saturday night watches a Western movie. Like it's nothing special. I went to a university in Singapore. I asked 100 students, how many of you have seen the movie Red Cliff? 80%. How many of you have seen the movie Batman? 80%. Then I went to the Stockholm School of Economics. I asked 100 students, how many of you have seen the movie Batman? 80%. How many of you have seen the movie Red Cliff? Take a guess, how many? No, 1. He was a Chinese exchange student. So you have a huge knowledge advantage. But when I say this to people in the West, and even when I say this to the people in the East, they will tell me, okay, so we know more about you, we know more than they do, but they are more creative than we are, right? We are not creative, we just copy. Have you ever heard this? Asia only copies. Especially China. This is a city in China, which is an exact replica of a Swedish city. They went to Europe to look at cute cities, and they came to Sigtuna, a 1,000-year-old Swedish city, and they saw it, and they stole it house by house. Every single house is a copy. Even every tree is a copy. There's even a church. They're not Christians, hello. They just copy. And this is the biggest mistake that you are telling yourself. You say that Asians only copy. It is not true, okay? Still today, if you look at the news, like Bloomberg or CNN, they will tell you about the Chinese Twitter or the Chinese Google. They will not use the names of the Chinese companies. They will call it the Chinese Google and the Chinese Twitter, like they're copies of Western companies. What they're not telling you is that the Chinese Google and the Chinese Twitter are now more advanced, more innovative, and have more features than Google and Twitter has. And then I met this woman, an Indonesian Chinese woman, Amelia Hendra, super innovative, creative young woman, 29 years old. And she said, Fredrik, you Westerners, All you talk about is creativity and innovation. You're obsessed with it. You think you're so good at it. But Fredrik, listen to me. It's not about copyright. It's not about intellectual property. It's not about patents. I said, no. She said, no. It's about copying right. Pablo Picasso said, good artists copy, great artists steal. Everyone copies. Even Apple copied everything. Apple did not invent the touchscreen. Apple did not invent the graphical interface. Apple did not invent the computer, the MP3 player, or the tablet PC. Someone else invented all of those things. Apple just copied right. Everyone copies. Now ask yourself this question. Who is better positioned to innovate? Someone who looks at all the ideas and all the trends all over the world, or someone who just looks at half of the world and thinks all ideas come from here? Of course you have an advantage. But it's not enough. You need to take this advantage and make something with it. So I'm going to end by showing an example of this, which I think is an amazing example of copying right from ideas all over the world. This is Emirates, one of the top 2 or 3 airlines in the world. Has anyone flown with Emirates here? Is it good or bad? It's awesome. And you see, where you're from? We're from Sweden. It doesn't matter if I ask a Swede or a Bangladeshi construction worker or a Chinese pop star, they all say it's awesome, because it's awesome. But why is it awesome? Because they are copying right. This is how they are different from all other airlines. Thai Airways, excuse me, but Thai Airways, they think that they compete because they're Thai. They think their competitive edge is that they're from Thailand. So they will love us, little flower behind the ears, Thai service. Hi, welcome to Thai Airways. American Airlines says, no, we're not going to do that stupid flower. We're going to do real service, American-style service, which means a big smile. Hi, how are you? Welcome. And then, touch the elbow and all of that. Hi, welcome, how are you? Air France says, no, we're not going to do American service. It's vulgar. We're not going to do that. We are going to do French service, which means no service whatsoever. But great food. But Emirates says, we're not going to do Emirati service. We are going to do service for human beings. And then take the flower from Thailand, the smile from America, the food from Air France, and they combine it and they make an airline that is perfect service for human beings, regardless where they come from. And when you fly with Thai Airways, they will say, on this flight between Bangkok and Dubai, we speak English and Thai. Air France, on this flight between Paris and Dubai, we speak English and French. American Airlines, on this flight between Miami and Dubai, we speak English. But on Emirates, what do they say? On this flight between Bangkok and Dubai, we speak 15 different languages. Tagalog, Thai, Japanese, American, French, Arabic, Swahili. Because they know that there are flying people from all over the world. And they know that if they have many different languages on the plane, there's a big chance that every passenger can talk to someone on the crew. Do you see the difference? That is the mindset of a company that has the idea that we should look for ideas everywhere and we should take the best ones. So you're Swedish. I'm going to end with a Swedish story. This is the Swedish national team of cooking. If I say Swedish food to them, what do they say? Meatballs, where? IKEA, yeah. Thai food is amazing. Everyone loves Thai food, but no one knows anything about Swedish food. We are famous for bad meatballs in a furniture store, okay? It's like nothing. But Sweden kicks ass in the food Olympics. We usually win. We beat countries like Thailand and France and China, famous food nations. How is it possible? So I met with them. I met with the Swedish national team of cooking, and I asked them, how can we win? And they said, because French chefs, they think that French food is the best in the world. So they learn everything they can about French cooking. Italian chefs, they think Italian food is the best in the world. So they learn everything they can about Italian cooking. Japanese chefs, they think Japanese food is the best. So they study Japanese cooking. But Swedish chefs, they know that Swedish food is not the best in the world. So they leave Sweden. They go to Paris and they work in a 5-star restaurant. Then they go to Italy and they work in a 5-star hotel and they learn about pasta. Then they go to Japan and they go to Thailand and they learn about food from famous food nations. Then they go back to Sweden and they learn about meatballs. And then they go to the Food Olympics and they combine the knowledge that they have. And like he said, we do herring sashimi with lingonberry wasabi. We take the best ideas of all the things that we have picked up around the world and we combine it in a way that everyone will like. That is the power of creativity, and that is the power of picking up trends and ideas, regardless of where they are, and combining them in a way that makes sense for you, that creates products and services for human beings. That's why you need trends. So enjoy the rest of the day and pick up all these ideas and bring it back and combine it with what you already know. And thank you very much.